This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Two more.
Just listen. Personal foul. Clipping. You like that?
I know, right? One side of town last night was like, I know, right? The other side was like, I know, right? Oh, wow.
Nas will push it up ahead to Randall, left side. Julius on the run against Brown, shoves off, kicks to the corner. Nas for the lead. He missed it. And the Pelicans have the rebound with 43 seconds left. The Wolves don't have to foul here. They trail by 2.
I mean, that was Radio Vikes. Alan Horton joins the 9 to noon radio show a little later. I mean, with that Wolves game last night, it's like, come on. New Orleans had lost its previous 3 by an average of 20 points per game.
The Pelicans have the worst road record in the NBA.
Thank you.
They've dropped 7 of their last 8. They lead the Wolves by 2. 30 seconds left. Zion to McCollum, right wing. Crossover. Step back. Gives it off to Olynyk in the corner with 5 to shoot. Against Nas, Olynyk drives. Drops it back. Brown, runner. Off the window. No. Rebound. Gotta have it. McCollum comes away with it. He's surrounded. The Wolves have to foul. 15 seconds left. Inside. Zion. Layup good with the left hand. The Wolves are down by 2 possessions with 13.6 seconds left.
All right, now hold on here. I mean, if Wolves Radio Vikes Alan Horton happens to be listening right now, he joins the radio show at 11:20, and after the last 2 games, he's probably like, oh, goody. But permit me to be a radio snob for a second. And let's listen back to the mastery that was that call right there by Alan Horton. This, my friends, is how it's supposed to be done.
The Pelicans have the worst road record in the NBA. They've dropped 7 of their last 8. They lead the Wolves by 2. 30 seconds left. Zion to McCollum, right wing. Crossover. Step back. Gives it off to Olynyk in the corner with 5 to shoot. Against Nas, Olynyk drives. Drops it back. Brown, runner. Off the window. No. Rebound. Gotta have it. McCollum comes away with it. He's surrounded. The Wolves have to foul. 15 seconds left. Inside. Zion. Layup good with the left hand. The Wolves are down by 2 possessions with 13.6 seconds left.
Fox. All right, so the game sucked, but that call right there, that's play-by-play mastery. Well done, Alan Horton, 11:20 today. You know, to chat about this 2-game losing streak, and that's for the Wolves, and that follows Wild head coach Heinze, John Hines, who I'm guessing will have a little pep in his verbal step.
Dancing one of Faber's long drive went wide, picking up Jaden Schwartz, hounded by Zuccarello. Rossi tries to dig it free. It comes free for Boldy in front. He scores! A loose punt, and Boldy buries it. He's off the snide, and the Wild off and running. It's 2-0 Minnesota.
They shut out Softy's Kraken, and now it's they, the Wild, who have a 2-game winning streak.
Freddie Gaudreau now, backdoor shot. They score again! This time it's Liam Ulgren. His first of the season. And 4.5 minutes in, it is 3-0 in favor of the Wild.
2 in a row for Foligno. 2 in a row for Foligno. Even though he's not playing, still 2 in a row for Foligno. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 9 to noon on what is a beautiful Thursday. adjacent to Erotic City. In the business, we call it the Cornfields. And this is FM 100.3 KFAN and the 651 Carpets Plus studios. I'm Paul Allen. Good morning. Nordo produces. Back when we were permitted to, or it wasn't a hassle to play real songs, 9 to noon. Zeppelin's Good Times, Bad Times probably would have been in the mix because that's what it was. Good times in St. Paul. Thank you, St. Paul. Bad times, very bad times for Minneapolis. Thank you, Minneapolis. But seriously, I mean, what's up with the Howl right now? Seriously? I picked a really good day to all hail the Howl, didn't I? All hail the Howl. Howl. Woo, woo, woo. Go on the road and destroy Denver, then lose, and eventually lose back-to-back to an Indy squad that at one point was down all 5 of its starters. And now the Pelicans, which compensate a fair amount of players nobody's heard of. Double-digit favorites both games. Money line wreckers for the old bridge jumpers in the world were those Wolves the last couple of games.
Can we play 18 seconds of Good Times, Bad Times? Might as well.
Can I get 18 and a half?
I'll give you 19.
Wild, Wolves, Good Times, Bad Times. And Robert. I miss normalcy.
You know what, the heck with it?
I wish you hadn't played that because now I miss it.
Starting Monday, I'm just going to start using real music on the bumpers again, and I'll nip and tuck. Screw it.
Yeah.
We need real music in our lives.
All right, 3-2. We get plenty of it in our lives. It's just our 3-hour livelihood. It's Good Times, Bad Times. And with the Wolves, you go on the road and destroy that Denver team. I mean, when they hook 2 struggling non-playoff teams like the Jazz and the Spurs, that they were hanging a franchise 141 on San Antonio and putting the Jazz to sleep relatively early. And you see there's a common thread there. It's called hooking teams that you are supposed to beat at a time of the season you're not supposed to be in the play-in. Now, to me, for what it's worth, as we fade the music and fire up 9 to noon, good morning. For what it's worth, it seems like they're getting startled when punched. And it's taking a bit to wake up. All right? Indiana and Nolens both kept coming at them with no names, looking to make a mark. Tony Bradley, something called Eves Missy. The difference being when New Orleans needed big scores, they got them from accomplished players like Zion Williamson and C.J. McCollum. All right. Now, Monday night, it was an Obi Toppin fest, and I guess the emphasis would not be put on accomplished players, but Obi's finding his way around the NBA. Everybody in the world knows, maybe even the state of hockey, Zion Williamson and C.J. McCollum, they know their way around a gym. So we messed around with an anonymous bit last night that has a couple of pieces to it who know how to play the game, and we got bit by Zion Williamson and C.J. McCollum. Eves Missy, James Robinson Earl, not James Earl Jones, James Robinson Earl, players like that, just crashing the boards with ferocity while we seemed flat-footed at times. Now, to wit, how about this? And 9 to noon uncovered this little gem this morning. It's right there for everybody. It's called the box score. The New Orleans Pelicans guards, all right? The ones they use the most. Household names like Jose Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins, Bruce Brown, and then there's C.J. McCollum. But they all play guard, okay? Now, guards, by definition, the way Messrs. Naismith and Wooden designed this thing, they're generally relatively far away from the basket. Yeah. All right? And then you get bigs. The centers and the forwards. Well, in a stretch 3 world, we completely understand. Key bigs generally are relatively close to the basket. So when players miss and the bottom of the peach basket has been cut out, so therefore the ball doesn't stay up there anymore. Consider this. Their guards, Alvarado, Hawkins, McCollum, and Bruce Brown, had 22 rebounds last night. Our key bigs, Gobert, McDaniels, Randall, and Naz Reid, combined for 19. Oh my God. That's astounding that anybody at any time of any NBA race can read something like that. Alvarado, Hawkins, McCollum, and Brown, all guards, 22 rebounds.
Wow.
Gobert, McDaniels, Randall, and Naz Reid, 19. I mean, it pisses me off. How? Seriously. Jaden McDaniels finished with 0 rebounds. How can Slim be that tall with those arms that go from Maui to Maine and have no rebounds? Now, Finch talked extensively with 9 to Noon earlier this week about the hard work and tenacity that comes with rebounding. Perchance, they didn't listen.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I said it.
Above average at that.
And why can I say it? Because 4 guards, 3 almost nobody have ever heard of, out-rebounded players everybody has heard of, including 6 Man of the Year, Stifle Tower, Slim, and the guy in the cat trade, 22 to 19. And Finch, if he brings up rebounding, tenacity that goes with rebounding, boxing out, the physicality and sometimes the pain that can go into securing rebounds, if he shares that 9 to Noon, then he absolutely has shared it with the Covenant. But last night, yeah. So bottom line, our favorite professional basketball team has been outworked at key times by lesser teams and lesser players. Yeah, but it's a long season, right? Bruh, we got like 10 games left, and we dropped in the freaking play-in. We're now in the 8th spot. Seriously, I mean, Wolves, Warriors, Warriors, Wolves, Wolves, chase. No. They lose to a Nuggets team down its best 2 players. How do they respond? They are without one of the best players in the history of the NBA, Steph Curry, and they beat the Milwaukee Bucks, a team that can go to the NBA Finals at full strength. That's how they respond. We're in the 8th spot in the disease play-in. I mean, there's still work to do. Copyright average white man. And there still is plenty of opportunity to win games and get out of this disease play-in thing. But the bottom line, and I do not believe it can be disputed, the Howl has been outworked at key times by lesser teams and lesser players. L. That's a fact. L. The human nature approach of, we ain't tripping. We have you when we want you. We got you anytime. We're better than you. We're a better team. We have better players. The human nature approach isn't clicking because the long shots keep getting to the wire first. That's fact. Now, the last 2. Last 2 for the Wild have been the antithesis of what we just discussed, that in that they've housed 2 in a row, down a bunch of players, including their best 2. Adhering to details and outworking the Kings and Kraken have led to happiness and joy and pride in the work that is required to A, get to, B, achieve, and C, close on at the highest level possible. And that's what they've done. Coach Hines around 11 to chat about all that. TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon includes a lot of stuff you'll enjoy, including some Bears steam around the corner, followed by Vikes Bites, where we get to meet Isaiah Rodgers, then Nacho Lieber, and just so much more. Heinze at 11. Excited about that. Nordo produces. I'm Paul Allen. Good morning. It's 9 to noon.
The Fan.
Alrighty now. Let's meet a new friend, everybody. And somebody yours truly brought into the Covenant a Tuesday night at the Indianapolis Scouting Combine. That's where I met him and his friend. Adam Hoge is the name, and Elite Chicago Bears coverage is the game. The popular podcast is called Hoge and Johns. And via Twitter, follow, if you are so inclined, at Hoge and Johns, HOGEJAHNS. And I watch and or listen to this podcast via YouTube, and Adam joins us now. My man, thank you very much for helping. And with so much wasted time of late around here on Aaron Rodgers, we wanted to bring you into the Covenant for some Bears and NFL takes and or talkers. Appreciate you, Adam. How are you?
Absolutely, PA. Great time in Indy a few weeks ago, and always good making new friends. Honored to be on the show, and as you guys are, I'm as intrigued with this NFC North right now as you guys are.
What, Adam? What did you and or the podcast team think of all the Rodgers to the Vikings stuff as you were following from afar?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't make sense to me. I was surprised that it just kept going on because, we have a connection to J.J. McCarthy too, because he's was playing high school ball down here in the Chicago area, and then as somebody who coaches in the Chicago Catholic League, we got knocked out of the playoffs by Nazareth just a couple of years ago. McCarthy wasn't there anymore, but very familiar with the program, very familiar with his high school and college career, and I thought it was a great fit when he ended up getting drafted by the Minnesota Vikings last year because. To me, he was one of those quarterbacks where it was like, well, it kind of depends where he ends up. But for him to end up in a system and with a coach like Kevin O'Connell, it just made a lot of sense to me. So for him to have to sit out last year and seemingly go through that redshirt year, I'm thinking, okay, now's the time. I mean, this, unless there's something going on extra with that knee that's going to make him questionable for the start of the season, to bring in Aaron Rodgers and everything he's kind of been the last 5 years, which seems like mostly a distraction. It didn't make sense to me. And the fact that it kept going on was making me even more confused. So to see that story kind of at least go on pause yesterday, I'm like, all right, because now's the time for McCarthy.
Adam, so coaching in the Catholic League and remembering young JJ from his football prowess playing in said Catholic League, do you happen to remember when the young man played hockey? Because I hear he was pretty good.
Yeah, that was more like one of those things that was made aware to me later, but certainly did not surprise me because he's an athlete and. Look, hockey down here at the high school level is certainly not what it is in Minnesota, but it's still pretty competitive with the programs that exist. So I don't have any specific memories of him playing hockey, but I am now well aware of it. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Adam, this is Adam Hoge. He's with a popular podcast called Hoge and Johns, at Hoge Johns via the tweet machine, if you'd like to learn more. I watch it and listen to it on YouTube. How has the Bears offseason under Ben gone so far, Adam, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's look, when you're whether you're covering a team or you're a fan of a team, you just want to see your team do things that seemingly make sense, right? And I think one of the things that's plagued the Bears too much over the last 15 years that I've covered the Bears is that they just sometimes seem to get a little too cute or do things that don't make sense, like hire Mark Trestman over Bruce Arians, who is the reigning NFL Coach of the Year. Like, how many times do you get the opportunity to hire the reigning NFL Coach of the Year? Right. That guy's never available, but he was, and instead the Bears went north and hired somebody from the Canadian Football League. So I bring all that up because this offseason, from hiring Ben Johnson to signing center Drew Dahlman to trading for an all-pro in Joe Tooney at left guard, revamping an offensive line that, as you guys are well aware, playing the Bears twice a year, has not been very good. These are all things that, oh, wow, yeah, that makes sense. Let's get Caleb Williams better protection up front. Let's make life easier on him. And, so I think that on paper, they have done everything kind of to a T that you would expect them to do and want them to do. Now, we all know the caveats. We all know that free agency can be fool's gold, that a lot of the times, even sometimes when signings do work out, you're still trying to get out of those contracts 2 or 3 years down the road, and maybe that's still the case. But I think right now everybody can at least look at this Bears offensive line and be like, all right, well, at least takes the excuses out for Caleb Williams, who obviously took way too many sacks last season, and that really held the offense back.
Now, with the new head coach, Ben Johnson, and these moves that have been made, and I thought it was super crafty in front of free agency, Poles and Ben opt to trade for offensive linemen instead of, getting into the rodeo that can be free agency with the bidding wars. I thought that was kind of a crafty move. So it's clear there is a Bears buzz with things that are transpiring. Now, with that said, this ticket price increase, holy cow. I mean, you talk about capitalizing on a buzz. Is that the right way to look at it?
Yeah, in literal ticket prices, season tickets went up even before they spent all this money, which was controversial after going through a 10-game losing streak last season. So I think, but hey, you get what you pay for most times, and I think that you spend big money on a head coach, which they've never really done before, and they make Ben Johnson, reportedly making $13 million a year, which, by the way, is something I have always banged the table to do.
Same.
We know how important coaching is in this league. You guys hired Kevin O'Connell at the same time the Bears hired Matt Eberflus. Look how that went over the last 3 years. So it doesn't count against your salary cap. pay big money for coaching and it'll pay off. Now, obviously, with the players and some of these big ticket prices, that does count against the cap. It can hold you back later. But I think in general, everything the Bears have been doing here with the money makes sense. And I think the fans are now feeling that buzz. But hey, the Bears are used to winning the offseason. I think they're, now 3-time back-to-back off-season champions. In the last 2 years, it didn't result in regular season victories. So the hope is this time around it finally will.
The Chicago Bears made a move for, he's a veteran, Grady Jarrett. All right, I think he's like 32 years of age. He's been one of my favorite players since he came into the league. He just maximizes every single thing he has for a big man. What'd you think of that Grady Jarrett signing? It was a big ticket item, and he's nearing the end of his career, but I don't know, man. What do you think?
Well, I'm with you, PA, and he's just one of those guys, and I'm sure the same reasons you've appreciated him is, similar for me. You turn on the Falcons, you see him making plays. You know anything about him, he's known as just one of those glue guys in the locker room, one of those just always positive gravitational forces that really pay off in football, whether he's on or off the field. And I'll tell you a quick story. At his introductory press conference last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was, Ben Johnson just happened to get off the podium and come down to the front row, and he sat right next to me where I was sitting, and he taps me on the leg, and he's like, buckle up, because they were as excited as I think everybody else was to see Grady Jarrett with a microphone in front of him, because he puts on a show in those press conferences too. And it was funny. It was informative. He's a guy that he's just captivating right away when you listen to him. And I think he plays the same way on the football field too, which is why he's had a 10-year career, very durable player. The one time he did have a major injury, he came back from it last year and started all 17 games. And there is a belief that, there might be a shelf life here 2 or 3 years down the road, but a lot of people I've talked to think that a year removed from that ACL injury, he's going to be set up to have a very successful 2025 season. And I think that was another great move that the Bears made to keep the momentum going on defense, because they still do have a pretty good defense with Dennis Allen now taking over as the coordinator.
Yeah, Adam, help me with this. Keenan Allen, all right, crafty veteran, and maybe I'm just mentally wounded, because every time he plays the Vikings, it feels like he goes for 200 and throws touchdown passes to Mike Williams. Does he have much left in the tank? He's still a free agent.
Yeah, last year was an odd year, I thought. So I applauded the move at the time. I still don't look back on it like it was regrettable or anything. I think it made a lot of sense. The Bears gave up a 4th-round pick for Keenan Allen, who was still put up massive numbers the year before. And there were times last year where he looked like Keenan Allen and what Keenan Allen's always been. I think the wide receiver room got a little crowded after they drafted Rome Odunze, and I think it was one of those things where Keenan Allen just, to no fault of his own, kind of just got in the way of the development of a top 10 pick in Rome Odunze. So I think that's the biggest reason why the Bears are not re-signing him, because it just didn't make sense. He still made a lot of plays. There's a route he ran against Detroit. I think it was in that Thanksgiving game, where, it was as good of a route as you saw run in football last season. So that tells me he does still have, plenty of plays left in the tank. The one thing that surprised me last season, Paul, was he dropped a ton of balls. And I didn't expect that. And there were some that were in crucial moments on 3rd down, too. It just seemed unlike Keenan Allen. I don't know if that's something that carries over, but that was the one criticism that sometimes in big moments where you have a rookie quarterback who made the throw, you're not expecting that 13-year veteran to be the one that kind of screwed up the play.
Right. How much, Adam, how much in your football-loving heart do you trust Caleb Williams?
That's a great question. Because I loved Caleb Williams. I still love Caleb Williams, just in terms of a prospect, wherever he ended up. He happens to get drafted by the Bears. I trust big picture. I still have a lot of trust that he's going to be a great quarterback and it's going to work out. On a smaller scale, play to play, how much do I trust him to make the right play, get rid of the ball, and not take a sack? That's still a work in progress. I do think Ben Johnson's going to help with that a ton in terms of scheming up answers for him that he understands before he takes the test. That's a huge part about playing quarterback. By the way, one of the reasons why I'm bullish about J.J. McCarthy working out in your guys' offense up there, because I think he'll be able to do that within Kevin O'Connell's scheme. So that's a long way of me saying, yes, I trust him long term. It's still a work in progress, and I don't know week one how much, my trust level still might be more like a 60 instead of 100 when they take the field, at least to start the season here in 2025.
So, Mr. Adam Hoge, Hoge and John's podcast, what do you sense the Bears covet in the draft 5 weeks from today?
Well, one thing is, I think the moves they made in free agency kind of opens up the draft board fully for them. That being said, they still need linemen. They still need pass rushers. This is a team that is not built through the trenches and now is starting to do so. So my gut tells me, based on what we've seen this offseason, they continue to do that. Is that a Will Campbell? Is that a left tackle? Is that one of these pass rushers to keep the pressure on defense, which I still think that they can do more of? There's a big Ashton Jeanty conversation here in Chicago all the time, Paul. It's
right.
It's like, what do you do if he's there? Because that is, if there is one skill position on offense where they could still significantly upgrade, it is running back, and they have not addressed that in free agency to this point. So I do wonder if Ashton Jeanty's sitting there at 10. We saw Ben Johnson when he was with the Lions. They went out and got Jahmyr Gibbs and made a huge difference for him, and it does seem like that might be hard to pass up if he's still sitting there at 10.
This podcast, Hoge and Johns, I aired earlier. The Twitter handle is at Hoge and Johns, Hoge and JAHNS. Follow if you are so inclined. Time for two more. What's the Adam? What's the state of Chicago pro sports like right now? I mean, none of them have been very good of late.
So here's a stat. So my full-time job's here at CHGO. We launched 3 years ago. We just celebrated our third birthday. There has been one playoff game in the history of Chicago sports, at least in the major five. I should give the Chicago Sky credit. They did win a championship in 2021 after we launched, or 2022, that was after we launched. But in terms of the big five, right, one playoff maybe it's series. That's what it is, because the Bulls made the playoffs that first year and immediately got swept out by the Bucks.
Right.
Maybe they won one game in there, but it's been hard. It's been really hard. There's not been a lot of winning. All the White Sox are in a full teardown. The Blackhawks are in a deep rebuild. The Bears keep giving everybody hope, but then failing once they get to the regular season. And the Bulls are just sort of stuck in the mud. So and the Cubs, there's some hope with them, but then it's very typical. They go to Tokyo and they lose their first 2 games of the season to the Dodgers, and everybody panics. So it's been a rough ride here in Chicago, but maybe the Bears will finally start to turn things around this fall.
All right, Adam, what are the best routes for people to watch and or listen to your cool podcast and the other work you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both CHGO, we do a Bears show 5 days a week, and Hogan Johns, as you mentioned a few times now, they're all available on YouTube for free. Just search CHGO. In fact, I believe Pete Burchett is going to come in the studio here in a couple weeks down here in the city. So we'll talk some Vikings with him on CHGO. It's all available on YouTube. It's all available wherever you listen to your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, the whole deal. It's really easy to find.
Yep. Send him a reminder, okay? Like if you call him and then you get pushed through to voicemail, just give him a few seconds and he'll be right there on time with the Elite Football Takes, okay?
I love Elite Football Takes, as you know. Thank you so much for having me on. This is great.
Adam, you're terrific. I appreciate you. We'll call you soon, okay?
All right. Talk soon.
That's Adam Hoge with some Bears steam. We always have a high level of respect for our divisional friends, the Chicago Bears.
Fall down, Chicago Bears. Ha, ha, ha. You're not in phase.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. It is time for Vikes Bites! And Vikes Bites, 9 to noon, is presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed, grass-fed beef. Delicious product, nutrient-dense. You can learn about regenerative agriculture. I don't know what that means, but guess what? Matt and the boys up in Clearwater, Minnesota at Thousand Hills, they do. And they do it at a high level. You can get them online, co-ops, Kowalski's, Coburn's locations, proud sponsors of Gophers Athletics. And we're going to start here. He came to Minnesota, hung out, got a lay of the land. Then he went elsewhere. But now he's back.
2nd and 4. Kyler shotgun play action. Throws right. Caught Rondale Moore uncovered. Shakes a tackle at the 25. Now he shakes another one at the 15 and walks into the end zone. Touchdown, Arizona. Eric Kendricks, with an incredibly rare missed tackle of that nature, paved the way for Rondale Moore to walk into the end zone and get his first touchdown this season. It's 28-23 Minnesota.
So that's Rondale Moore for the Arizona Cardinals. That was a touchdown in 2022. A year before, well, it was even more explosive.
3 receivers to the left. Chase Edmonds to the left of Kyler.
Edmonds.
Jay Green sole alone to the right, opposite Bashad Breeland. Here's Stephen Weatherly running in untouched on Kyler, who sprints away to the left, and he throws to an uncovered man. It's Rondale Moore at the 40. Vikings 30, 20-10. Touchdown, Arizona Cardinals. It is a 77-yard touchdown. Kyler Murray to Rondale Moore.
You know, playing those 2 highlights, PA, it almost reminds me of a Dean Lowry. And I know Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman, when they were with the Bears, they did damage against other teams as well, but it always felt like they were at their best against the Minnesota Vikings. Rondale Moore has 4 touchdowns in those 3 healthy seasons.
Jeez.
2 of them are against the Vikings.
Wow.
So clearly he has found some elixir to find his way into the end zone. The former Purdue Boilermaker. You've heard it since the news was popping yesterday that Rondale Moore had signed to a deal with the Minnesota Vikings. Had some pretty good times against Minneapolis as a Boilermaker. He was making memories against the Gophers as well. So Rondale Moore, as it stands now, as he stands, he's not the tallest guy in the room. There's no doubt. 5'7", about $180. But he's been known as that shifty playmaking type at times from a punt return standpoint, providing some help in that area. Specifically his rookie season in 2021. That's where I'm interested to see how competition lays out and how the Vikings tend to use him. Matt Daniels, is he getting a piece of him in the return game? Is it exclusively the idea that he's maybe bolstering the receiving core? because you look at his time in Arizona, PA, he had 21 punt returns his rookie season, 13 kick returns, then just 8 punt returns in 2023, none in 2022. So the Cardinals found his value most being a guy that could that was part of Kyler Murray's offense, specifically his final season there in 2023. Also got the rock handed to him a fair amount, 28 carries as a wide receiver for $178 and a rushing touchdown in 2023. As we talked about when the news came that he had just visited here, now he's in Chicago. And then I think the third team he visited was the Jets out east.
Yep.
Well, he tore up his knee in the offseason last year. I think it was early August. And so that was kind of my vibe with it, is they're probably getting feelers out there just like, are you healthy? Can you be somebody that can contribute in 2025? Clearly, the Minnesota Vikings decided after some thought and the fact that Rondale did not sign a deal with either the Bears or the New York Jets, that he was somebody that the Vikings might want to bring into the covenant. So welcome Rondale Moore to the Minnesota Vikings.
My questions for Rondale Moore would include, can you count?
We got too many men out there. No.
Secondly, do you have your sights set on being our identifiable punt returner? Because after we make that move for Jimmy Horn Jr. somewhere in the draft or college free agency, it ain't going to happen. And thirdly, Rondale, what's your ultimate goal?
Super Bowl, homeboy.
That injury last year, right? It was right in front of the season. And Rondale is very fast. I recall Rondale Moore when he came into the NFL out of Purdue. I mean, he might have been a 4.2 40 guy. I mean, certainly a 4.3. Very fast, diminutive, as the Con just mentioned. And generally, when they leave covenants, they don't come back. But when you leave 3 covenants, maybe you look in the mirror and you're like, maybe it's me and not all of them. So then you kind of look at, all right, what do you have? What do you have? What do you have? Oh, you play outdoors. Okay. You're quarterback. Okay. Yeah. I think I'll go there. Because when I'm on the field, if I'm on the field, if I make the team and I'm on the field, well, I would imagine Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson are going to get a fair amount of coverage. So I don't know, maybe I'll be singled up. And I can face a blown coverages like I did a few years ago when I got loose on that 77-yard punt pass from Kyler Murray, and it was way too easy. Rondale Moore, welcome to the covenant.
Vikes Bites!
Vikes Bites.
Thank you, Thousand Hills. And a name that's come up multiple times. I've mentioned it to you, and you are very much, I believe, as we would say, in lockstep. The idea that Isaiah Rodgers has a chance to be really sneaky good and a fantastic pickup by the Vikings. Getting everything out of the way early and just saying, boom, 2 years, $15 million. Not interested in bidding wars, not interested in other people learning what we think we might have in you. Welcome to the Minnesota Vikings, Isaiah Rodgers, former Philly and Colt corner. Well, he spoke to the media yesterday, and so we're going to air that press conference from yesterday afternoon now. And it all started, I think it was Matt Collar who got the conversation going, like, hey, ultimately, welcome, and, what led you to Minnesota? Why did you choose the Vikings?
I'm just a huge fan of, for one, like a great team, great organization. I just seen the Vikings had a great season last year. Huge fan of Brian Flores. I always, looked up to him and noticed his work from afar when I was in the Massachusetts area, New England area. So, I feel like it was like kind of like a no-brainer.
Yeah, hey, Isaiah, congrats, man. First of all, just what was last year and being a part of that run like? What did you feel like you learned the most from that Fangio defense?
Just understanding how to be a teammate, with me being out a year and coming back and playing ball again, just learn how to be a good teammate, on and off the field, no matter what your role is, being prepared, being ready for when your moment comes. And I think that showed me a lot last year, the role I had last year and being a part of that great organization over there and coming out with a Super Bowl. So great experience.
Isaiah, what did you sort of take away from the year that you were away from the game between the Colts and the Eagles, and how do you sort of apply that to your career moving forward?
I think the first thing I realized is, for one, the league doesn't need anybody. I say that's the first thing I realized, and realizing that the league was still going on without me, I'm like, wow, nobody really, cares. So I just knew that whole moment was something that I needed, and me sitting out a year and coming back and knowing that nothing matters what I've done in my past. It's all about how I respond and knowing I'm just trying to change the narrative of my name, change, my future. So, continue to build my story up.
From a physical standpoint, did it take a little bit of time to ramp back up last year, or were you able to come in sort of football shape?
No, I was good. I was football shape. I was prepared. I was more excited than anything. So, even if I wasn't in shape, I was just too excited to be back. So it wouldn't even show.
You mentioned observing Flores' defenses kind of from the outside. What are you most excited about being on the inside of that?
Just knowing what type of person he is. I heard a lot of good things about him, but finally being able to actually be coached by him and, and understand his highs and his lows and, what ticks him off, what he loves about players. So little things like that, just getting to know him as a player, as a coach. So, not just so from the outside and just scheme.
Hey, Isaiah, welcome to Minnesota, to the Vikings. I'm just curious with, obviously, he's not a corner, but with Harrison Smith coming back for a 14th season and being in that DB's room, just what do you think you can learn from someone who's been in the league for that long? And just maybe what have you admired about his game from afar?
I think that kind of explained my whole career. I always had a veteran in the room. I started my career off with Xavier Rhodes, one of Harrison Smith's best friends. So I used to always see Harrison on FaceTime with him. So he don't even know me, but I've been to him since 2020. But those type of guys you want in the room, those type of guys, like 14 years in the league, just being able to stay healthy and ball at a level he's been playing at, all Pro Bowl years and things like that. Like, just want to pick his brain and understand what the things he's done off the field to, reach it to that type of level of accomplishment. So I'll try to pick his brain.
Isaiah, I know you said that you want to change the narrative. What did you learn about yourself during that time? And does that kind of go hand in hand where B-Flow also wants his players to find joy? Do you find more joy in the game now?
I appreciate it for sure, definitely. But I think the main thing with me is throughout that year, I kind of stepped away from football and tried to understand who I was as a person. So I just focused more so on being a great son, a great father, a great partner. So I think that was my main thing. And finally getting back to the game, it was like it all just was a missing piece of the puzzle that I needed. So I just had to find myself as a person. I get to enjoy football now.
Isaiah, from a scheme perspective, it seems like the Fangio and Flores defenses are pretty different. Just the amount that Brian likes to blitz, things like that. What is your, assessment of how different the job might be going from working with Vic to now with Brian?
Like you said, he loves the blitz and things like that. But with the team we have, I'm all for it. So blitz all day, it saves time. You have to cover. And I trust his team. I trust his strategy and everything he has going into game plans. And I trust the guys that he built in his room. So, I'm ready. I'm looking forward to see.
Yeah, Isaiah, I was wondering if you could talk about a little bit about what happened in 23 and what, as teams, Eagles last year, Vikings this year, what did they ask you and what did you tell them about, kind of guaranteeing that you can be relied on?
I think in this league, it's not really about what you can tell a team or tell a coach. It's all up to the team because you can send out emails and tell everybody how in shape you are and things like that. But it's all about faith. I feel like Eagles took a chance on me. They had faith in me to come in and be in shape and things like that. I sit out a year, and Minnesota also has the same faith in me as well to be able to come and grab me and and have a role for me, whatever that will be. Just understanding that they're putting their trust in me just as much as I'm putting their trust in them, and I know it goes hand in hand. So I don't think there's too much more I can tell coaches and staff and things like that. 'Cause a lot of people can say what they can do, but it's all about actions.
Isaiah, what do you think your ceiling is as a player?
I don't know. I know it's high. I'm still going. I'm still young to me. I'm only 27 years old, and in reality, based off playing, I'm really 25. So I still got a lot more to build. I'm trying to, bring Lombardi to Minnesota. So ready to get it going.
A little bit of a two-parter, but did you reach out to Xavier during your evaluation process? And then what do you think about linking up with Byron Murphy?
I reached out to Zave about Minnesota after everything. 'Cause I kind of wanted to, make a decision on my own and not really go too much off people's experience. But reached out to him. I reached out to Stephon Gilmore. He was on my team as well in Indy. So, I got a little Vikings connections here. So they said nothing but positive things. So I think it was a no-brainer.
And then have you linked up with Byron a little bit? Yeah, get that text chain going?
Yeah, but we thought we were supposed to. He was getting sushi when we got there Friday. So I think sushi was more important than our friendship. But I'm kidding. But I was supposed to see him when I did a little tour and things like that the day I signed. But we got a lot of days ahead of us.
Isaiah, I'm sure you're aware the Vikings have not won a Super Bowl. Now that you have, what does it take? What is that experience like to win the Super Bowl?
I never won one as well until I did. So I think that's my motto going into here. It's not about what happened in the past. And, everybody has their own story. So it's time for us to write our own with this 2025 roster. That's the first thing. I think it just takes a team. Everybody has to come together. It's going to take a lot of pride that people have to put to the side and understanding that we all here for one thing only. So it doesn't really matter too much what everyone has going on outside or how your day going. And at the end of the day, we just got to come here and put in the work. And it's not going to just be handed to us. So it's going to take a lot of work, but I think we're willing to put it in.
Isaiah, you mentioned Stephon Gilmore. What do you feel like you learned most from him? What impressed you most about him?
He's so fluent still at his age. Being a corner at this age, a lot of people don't really have a lot of confidence in you, but he's still going. He still can play. He still can ball. And I think that's kind of the same thing I kind of compared with him and Harrison Smith, just being able to go out there and still play at a high level. And it's not like it's different if you're in the league for 14 years, you're just in the league and nobody really knows what you're doing. You're not really putting too much out there because you don't really have the body to do it. But they still going. So those are the type of guys you definitely got to, stay in touch with.
Isaiah, how long did the Super Bowl tattoo take?
It was about 4 hours.
Okay. Worth the time commitment?
Definitely. I got to figure out where I'm going to put the next one at, though.
Isaiah, I got to ask, I think it was your son that thought the snow in Philly was bubbles. So did he like it? And did you tell him we'll probably be seeing a lot more bubbles in Minnesota?
I didn't even tell him, but I've been switching over because he's all he knew was Eagles. So now he's running around yelling Vikings, Vikings, Vikings. So got to teach him to scold. He just just a kid, but he loves. The thing with that bubble video is he didn't even see the snow the whole game, even though it was a snow game. So he finally came out of the stadium because he was inside the little daycare. He finally seen it and he just instantly liked bubbles. So it wasn't scripted. It was a one take. So, I'm glad he went viral. So good for him.
Just one more on the Super Bowl. What was your favorite moment from the entire experience of that?
Favorite moment was probably at the end when you finally see the confetti and you got your family with you and realizing that it's a moment that will last forever. Nobody can take it away from you. So it's not like it was never no play or anything that just like that I'm always going to remember. I for sure remember that moment when the confetti went off and finally get a hold of that Vince Lombardi. That's probably the best feeling.
That's fresh Vikings corner Isaiah Rodgers with the media yesterday. Later on in the show, actually, you're going to get to know more about Jonathan Allen. So excited to have him on the defensive front next to Javon Hargrave. You got Van Ginkel. You got Grenard. What a defensive front seven this team's going to have. You'll hear from Jonathan Allen later, but next, weekly guest Ben Lieber. Nacho. He's in studio next. Second hour ahead, 9 to noon on The Fan.